Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's good to have you back with us at Somaliland National Television. My name is Mohammed Adam. I'm here with the English news broadcasted to you from my studio in Hargeisa. Let's take a look at the main stories making headlines. Somaliland Civic Registration Committee informs about upcoming projects. 5-hour ceasefire between Israel and Hamas on humanitarian grounds. Welcome back. Now the stories in detail. Dr. Mohammed Abdi Daoud, a member of the Technical Committee for the Somaliland Civic Registration Committee, provided an exclusive interview to SLN TV where he elaborated on prospective projects being undertaken by the committee to implement the national citizenship registration, which is due to be started soon. Mohammed Abdi Daoud stated that the committee have made contacts with several bodies, organizations and countries that support the Somaliland government in fulfilling its developmental objectives. Many of these bodies, organizations and countries have accepted and welcomed our objectives and suggested that the civic registration project is a very important project for Somaliland, which is worth more cooperation and allocation of funds by the donor nations, said Mohammed Abdi Daoud. In regards to the objectives of the organization, Mohammed Abdi Daoud stated that the committee is responsible for leading the civil registration as it was designated for by the President of Somaliland, Ahmed Mohamed Silani, on March this year. The committee has the ultimate objective of ensuring that citizenship IDs are issued within this year in cooperation with the donor nations and other international organizations to ensure that elections are held within the year 2015. Abdi Daoud added, the registration of citizens is also followed by the voter registrations, which is necessarily due to be held afterwards in preparation for elections within the year 2015. Dr. Mohammed Abdi Daoud, speaking on the important role that citizenship IDs would play in the security, stated that Somaliland has enjoyed peace over the years after successfully holding elections based on peaceful transfer of power. Citizenship IDs are important and are needed to ensure that all Somaliland citizens live peacefully and prevent external threats. The citizenship IDs can help our security agencies to track and intercept anyone that would harm our security. This will also be followed by the voter registration, which without it no election can be held. So to ensure that we hold elections on a scheduled date, voter registrations are important, and only a Somaliland citizen has the right to vote and has the right to bear the voter ID, said Mohammed Abdi Daoud, a member of the Somaliland Civil Registration Committee. Mohammed Abdi Daoud, speaking on the system of governance that Somaliland has based its administration ever since reclaimed independence, stressed that Somaliland, unlike many other nations, has successfully based its form of governance on democracy and peaceful transfer of power. He added that Somaliland is the only Arab country which every president defeated in elections transfers power, and every president leaves power after serving its constitutional hold of power, which is 2 terms. Somaliland has been acknowledged throughout the world as a beacon of peace and a template of progress for the peace and progress it has been portraying over the years since reclaimed independence in 1991. Residents of the capital city of Somaliland have been in long queues at the shopping centres located throughout the capital city, including the Islamic exterior centres. Residents have for the last few hours been in long queues shopping for the preparations of the upcoming Eid al-Fitr festivities. 11 days are remaining, while Muslims have fasted the previous 19 days. Now they are preparing for the upcoming Eid festivities, and they are being seen across the shopping centres throughout the Somaliland capital city. The Islamic exterior centres in particular have been received a number of people coming to shop for the Ramadan, to buy clothes, exterior equipment and recorded religious seminars, messages and the Quran, with the intent of increasing good deeds sought to be done by the Muslims during the holy month of Ramadan. One of the owners of the exterior centres spoke to SLN TV. He stated that Islamic exterior centres have been providing services for a number of customers across the capital city, visiting the shops to shop and buy all they need of exterior equipment and closed to prepare for the upcoming Eid festivities. During the Ramadan, Muslims pursue good deeds and refrain from all activities that may go against the Islamic faith. You're still tuned into the English news on SLN TV. Now for the main international headlines in detail. It's a brief calm in the storm of deadly airstrikes and rocket attacks between Israel and Hamas. A temporary ceasefire is underway, with both sides agreeing to a UN request to stop fighting for 5 hours on humanitarian grounds. Earlier, Israeli forces said they thwarted a bid by Palestinian militants to infiltrate in Kibbutz by means of an underground tunnel from Gaza. Several gunmen were killed.
But it's the death of 4 young boys on the beach in Gaza that has stirred dismay and indignation internationally. Officials say that the youngsters from the same family, aged 10 and others aged 9 and 11, were playing when they were killed by shelling from an Israeli gunboat. The Israeli military said the reported civilian casualties were unintended and tragic, and that it was investigating what happened. Gaza officials say 220 Palestinians have died in 10 days of fighting. 1 Israeli has been killed.
Afghan security forces say all 4 militants who have attacked Kabul International Airport early this morning are dead, and that the unrest is over.
A fierce gunfight ensued with Afghan police and special forces after armed men stormed an empty building just after dawn and began firing on the airport. A car bomb is thought to have helped the militants gain access. Afghanistan's Taliban have said they were behind the attack, which lasted more than 4 hours. It was one of the most audacious assaults on the airport, which is used by civilians and military. It is home to a major operational base for NATO-led forces. The authorities say the security forces suffered no casualties. The airport was not damaged and all flights diverted elsewhere. The attack comes at a time of uncertainty in Afghanistan, with votes from a second round of disputed presidential elections due to be counted. The poll is meant to mark the country's first democratic transfer of power.
Syria's President Bashar al-Assad has been sworn in for the 3rd term in office at a ceremony in his palace in Damascus.
It follows an election last month which took place only in government-held areas and described by critics as a parody of democracy. Assad took 88.7% of the vote. In a speech during the swearing-in ceremony, he vowed to fight insurgents in the civil war until security was restored to the whole country. In this warning to those who have backed rebels, he said, "Soon we will see that all Arab and neighboring Western countries who have supported terrorism will pay a heavy price." Assad's forces, backed by Iran and Lebanon's Hezbollah movement, have regained control of much territory north of the capital over the past year. But large parts of the north and east remain in rebel hands, including those of Islamic militants.
Washington has announced its most wide-ranging sanctions yet against Russia over Ukraine, targeting key institutions such as banks and defense and energy firms.
It comes as 12,000 Russian forces were reported back onto the border with Ukraine. Washington accuses Russia of failing to fulfill its promise to de-escalate tensions in its neighbor and to stop selling weaponry to separatist rebels. US President Barack Obama said Russia must learn to face the consequences of its actions.
We are taking these actions in close consultation with our European allies who are meeting in Brussels to agree on their next steps. And what we are expecting is that the Russian leadership will see once again that its actions in Ukraine have consequences, including a weakening Russian economy and increasing diplomatic isolation.
Russian President Vladimir Putin's response was to warn that they would likely hurt the US as much as the Russian economy. Concerning these measures, I've already said, as usual, they are countering these measures. I've already said, as usual, they have a boomerang effect. And there's no doubt, in this situation, they take the Russian-American relationship to a dead end. EU leaders have agreed to stiffen their own sanctions, along with targeting companies that operate within annexed Crimea. They are now intending to penalize banks lending funds to reconstruction and development projects within Russia itself.
That's all we have for you today. Thank you for watching. You can also follow our news on somalilandntv.com. Join us at the same time tomorrow. Until then, Ramadan Kareem.